Welcome to Homeschool MBA, where we talk about different management, business, administration topics. Thank you for being here. Let's get started. So the agenda today is project management process. One of our previous lectures, we defined what a project really is. This is a follow-up to that, which is a one-page slide, which explains what a typical project management process is. Hello, Professor, how are you doing? Let's talk about project management process.
I'm okay. Well, project management process, every project manager has a different approach to various projects. And it depends on the nature of the project as well. However, there are certain universal rules or the universally accepted process. And that process is that the manager must understand and follow the project management process to complete project in time, budget, and according to the specifications. To do that, the project manager has to know himself that what is the time available to him, what is the budget available to him, and what are various constraints and weaknesses and strengths in completing that project, and what is the budget available to him. Now then it comes to 4 different steps, as we call them. That is define and organize, then plan, execution and manage, and then project close. Now we will start with plan first. Now, plan, basically, different managers have different viewpoints about plan. Some people say that planning is waste of time. You just plan and put it in the rack and do the way you want. The situation is on the ground. But the others say, well planned is half done. Now, when we say well planned is half done, we actually start with defining and organizing the project. Now, defining project objectives, scope, that what, when, where, how we are going to go about, and then we organize necessary resources. Now, when we say resources, we mean the human resource, we mean the financial resource, consultant services, and agreement of the client, and raw materials, and things like that. So that is when, you see, before we start, we organize. And then we come down to number 2 step, that is task, create roadmap, develop schedule and deadlines, analyze resources, optimize trade-offs, develop risk management plan. Now, here what we mean is that develop schedule means that we set the phases. There is 3 different phases that we can go: short-term, medium-term, and long-term phase, depending on the duration of the project or the volume and the size or the magnitude of the project. Now, then we fix the milestones that and link those milestones with time so that we are able to finish the project within the stipulated period of time. Now, this is called milestoning or phasing. Then in this very step, we fix the review dates or monitoring and evaluating schedules, review meetings, and the status of the project. Different managers have different ways to do that, using various colors like red, green, and yellow we discussed earlier. So that is done in this step. Then we go to step number 3. Lead project team, monitor status, schedule, budget, open issues, and then risk, plan, adaptive action, manage change, and report to management. Basically, here what we mean is that we have now organized the team. We have allocated the task, we have allocated the role, and we have defined the SOPs for each employee, what, when, where, how to do, and we have given the job descriptions, and we know that who is going to lead the team and which worker is going to perform what activity and what role, when, and how. So all these things are explained, and the team leader leads from the front. Now, here you see the team leader must keep in mind that his job is only to lead, not to perform the activities. Let the activities be performed by the employees who are responsible to carry out the task. So if everybody is doing his task properly, the project is likely to be completed within the stipulated period of time and according to the specifications. And then we come down to step number 4: evaluate project success, record actual cost, durations, and deliverables, and future recommendations, and hands off, are what we call lessons learned for future. Now, here at the end of the project, we actually categorize the performance of the whole team, whether our performance was A class, B class, or C class. And then we also categorize the performance of each individual, A, B, C, and we check the performance both of the team and of the individual against the time, against the resources, against the specifications. And those of you who have completed their task according to the resources available, according to the specifications, and within the time period, naturally they'll be graded as A. And there'll be some people who, because of certain natural delays and things like that, will not be able to perform as good as the others. So the manager should not worry, because everybody cannot give his best out every time. So some people will be outstanding, some people would be just average, and some may be below average. So altogether, put together, let us say the whole team's average might be A. So you managers should not worry about it. Now, then we go back to the slide: define, organize, plan, execute, and manage, and project close. Now, we have linked now here defining and planning together, because you plan and then you organize. And then you start execution. Execution is when you are allocating the role, you are allocating the task, activities to different team members and explaining to them what, when, where, and how to do it. And before you allocate the activities to the workers or to the team members, you got to consult them. That firstly, you use the that buzzword, right man for the right job, looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the team members and their expertise, you allocate the task. But at the same time, you must get their consent, that this is the task that I'm giving to you, and are you willing to take it? If the employee is happy, then give it to him. And that would mean ownership of the decision that you are making. The employee would be happy that he's been given the task according to his own willingness and his expertise and his qualification, and he's happy to do. So that's what we refer as ownership of the decision. Then project is closed. Now, closed is not simply, closing up. It is basically a review of the whole project, whether you completed this project according to the specifications that were given, according to the resources that you were given, and according to the requirements of the client. If you are, and this again is done by a team and the project manager leads it. And then if you are fully satisfied, then you declare the project is closed. But what does it mean project is closed? It is fully documented. What are those things which are documented? That is the lessons that you have learned, the achievements that you have achieved during the execution, and the failures that you have faced during the execution of the project. And this is done both for the client, because when you hand over the project to the client, then you give the overall picture of the project, that this is how we started and this is what the agreement was between us, and that is how we have closed. And you sign a proper letter of handing over, and the client takes over and gives you confirmation that yes, the project has been completed according to his requirements and according to specifications and all that. And that documentation is now becomes the one project completed. And similar projects, you have so many of them in your racks, and every project is used for future planning and for learning lessons from the past. That is, generally speaking, what the project managers should, as a matter of fact, do. Yes, if you have any questions.
So, Professor, I think one thing to add would be, in light of that decision dialogue process, what is happening when we say adjustment during organize and plan phase, and then again we revisit an adjustment when we do a plan and execution? Maybe you can spend a minute on that. What adjustment really means there?
Yes. You see, when we are planning on paper, and we are taking everything for granted. Like, let's say there'll be no natural disaster, there'll be no natural delays, and there'll be no accidents and nothing of the sort. But when we actually start working on ground, we find the situation is different. Sometimes the natural disasters have come in, and that has delayed us. So we will have to adjust our, let us say, phases. Maybe that first phase you could not complete within the stipulated period of time, and now you extend the remaining part of first phase to second phase, and you complete the second phase and the remaining part of the first phase in the second phase. That is what we say adjustment of time, etc. Then the adjustment about the finances, because you see, on paper we are planning that, but the prices control is not in your hands. So when actually go to the market, then you are spending more, and things have gone, inflation has come up and things like that, and maybe your projections were not as good as they should have been. So you make some adjustments. But for that matter, if you remember, in one of our previous lectures, we had said that you should have buffer zones like 10-15% plus minus, in terms of resources, in terms of finance, in terms of time. So that's what we mean adjustment. And this adjustment is done to make sure that the project is completed within the resources and within the time period. Yes, that's what the...
Yeah, so one thing I want to add is I've noticed that a lot of my projects, we really never did a closure or a lessons learned for future. Marketing department or feasibility guys would make a project feasibility at the start of the project, and the project would be 2-3 years long. By the time the project got executed and finished, those guys who did the feasibility had moved on. They would hardly go do a lessons learned or do an exact analysis of, did we really meet our targets or not. So I think that's a gap between actual world versus academia. It would be good if we do a project closure analysis. That would help projects being more accurate and meet their feasibility demand. All right, at the end I would like to thank everybody for joining. Please like and subscribe to all our social media. Thank you.